And good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. With you until 8 o'clock tonight, and this evening got usually a coach guest, but this week he is our co-host as Jeff Gress having some work over at Newman Catholic tonight. He'll be back next week, but very happy to welcome into our studio to join me for the next 2 hours, the head hockey coach at Wausau West High School, BJ Brandt. And Coach, different hat tonight.
Different hat, but happy to be here. Talk a little hockey, talk a little basketball, just see where the night goes.
We still have our guest lined up for this week coming up in about 15 minutes or so. We'll be joined by a coach that right now has an 11-game win streak. The Mosinee Indians and their boys hockey coach, Troy Michalski, will be joining us at 6:20. And then coming up at 7 o'clock, it will be our student-athlete guest, senior from the Central Wisconsin Storm, one of their captains, Hannah Baumann. So that's coming up here on the program on Bull Falls Radio. And again, it's going to be a little bit more of a hockey-centric program because, number one, we got Coach Brandt, and number two, really a lot of interesting games this week. I think there's a lot of significance with the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Obviously, you got your big matchup coming up tomorrow night against Stevens Point in the GNC. You got the conference tournament starting next week as well. And also because hockey, it starts the playoffs earlier. It's hard to believe how close we are to the seeding meetings. We're, a week and a half away from the seeding meetings in high school hockey?
Yeah, next week Sunday. Not this coming Sunday, the following, February 5th, I believe is the date. Coaches are starting to do their homework right now, and there's significant matchups that are happening over these next couple of weeks because as coaches, you're always looking to see where teams are at the time of the seeding meeting and maybe not necessarily all of the things that go into it. But, yeah, there's, as coaches, we're one of the few sports that's not computer seeded right now. And I think we want to keep it that way, so you got to do your homework.
We got to pick your brain a little bit later on what you do look for when you do sit down at the seating meeting in about 10 days' time. But let's look at what's been going on in high school hockey here in the area. In the Wisconsin Valley Conference, right now you have Stevens Point playing outstanding hockey. They're on a win streak. They're 14-3 overall, 6-0 in the conference. Wausau West is right there, 1/2 game behind the Panthers at 6-1 in the conference, 9-9 overall. DC Everest is currently third in the conference at 3-3, 7-10 overall. Wisconsin Rapids fourth at 3-4 and 11-6 overall. Marshfield is fifth at 1-5 in the conference, 10-9 overall. And East Merrill United is 0-6 in the conference, 3-12 overall. Last night, plenty of action, including a game that we had here on Bull Falls Radio, and I was there, and of course BJ was there as the Wausau West Warriors defeated Wisconsin Rapids 5-2. Judah Leader had 2 goals for West. Carson Goss had 2 goals for Wisconsin Rapids. Parks Gunther had 26 saves for the Warriors. Rapids led 2-1 after 1, but the Warriors 2 goals in the second. Survived a number of penalty kills in the third to win 5-2 before scoring a couple of late goals. We talked about it last night. That's not an easy place for West to play going back a lot of years, even back when you were an assistant coach back when Pete, I think the worst loss I ever saw was in Wisconsin Rapids. I think 10-0 one year. Last year took away a chance for a conference championship. The way your team played last night, a good win against a Wisconsin Rapids team that has good firepower.
Oh, their top scorers are some of the best in the conference and probably in the top of the state. I think, we talked about with our guys today, just we had to kill 20 minutes in penalties, and you can't spend a third of the game on the kill because it shortens your bench. There's only so many guys that have gotten down the penalty kill rotation and know how to do it. So it shortens your bench a little bit, which we took the penalties late in the game, which maybe is different if you take them all early in the game because that stacks up shift after shift as you go throughout a game. And in the last half of that period, we had to be good, and we were good. And I thought our guys killed penalties really well. And then when we did finally decide we weren't going to take any more penalties, we were able to get some offense going. Nice stretch play from Thomas to Judah there to get the fourth goal, and then a nice little tic-tac-toe play from Cooper to Ray to Aiden Abuzahab, who scored that 5th goal.
Stevens Point is playing really good hockey. In fact, they've had a real stretch of dominant hockey. Saturday, they went to Marquette, won 10-3. The thing that kind of jumped out is you had Grant Molsky with a hat trick, Kate Smiga, Jackson Schrader, Mason Keller, all 2 goals. 4 guys, all the guys that we've noticed over the years multiple goals against Marquette. And then last night, they defeated Nina Hortonville-Menasha, which has been a very solid program in recent years, on the road, 5-0. It looks like, as you, I'm sure, have been looking at Stevens Point getting ready for tomorrow night's matchup, it looks like a Spash team that has been getting better and better throughout the season.
Yeah, I think they're peaking. I think their young guys are skilled, and they've gotten enough experience now at the varsity level to understand what needs to be done to win at the varsity level. Certainly, they're on a really good stretch here where they've played some really good hockey, really good opponents. You look at their game schedule here, and they've had some tough opponents. They got some tough opponents coming ahead, too. It's a big week for them. It's a big week for us. It's going to be an awesome matchup down at the Willett.
We'll talk more about that matchup in just a bit. Also last night, tough offensive nights for both DC Everest and East Merrill United. The Blue Jacks went to Pacelli and lost 3-0. Jake Furr, 50 saves. Again, you have to give a tip of the cap to Jake Furr because he has faced so many shots. He's been a really good goaltender for 4 seasons at EMU. You've had a chance to play them a number of times. And he faces a lot of rubber, and yet he stands up tall for that team, doesn't he?
He's a competitor. I think that's the biggest thing for him is it doesn't matter who he plays every night. He's going to go out and compete for his team. And I think that's, as a senior captain on that group, he does a really nice job of giving them every opportunity to win a game just by how he's going to play in the net.
DC Everest, it's been an interesting week for Everest. Last Thursday, they got a big conference win. They scored 4 times in the first period and then held off Wisconsin Rapids 4-3. Nolan Elgersma had 2 goals. Griffin Bonnell, 35 saves, including a dozen in the third period as they had a 4-3 lead going into the third, and they were able to hold off Wisconsin Rapids. But last night, in a game that has significance in the sectional, Thomas Sparter came to the Green Heck, got a third period goal, defeated the Evergreens 1-0. The freshman Bonnell again had 27 saves. For DC Everest, it is a young team. As I said, they're 7-10 overall, 3-3 in the conference. That win against Rapids was significant, both in the conference and in terms of the section. But Everest has struggled a bit offensively. But again, this is a freshman goaltender that looks like he could be the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, he's seen a lot of pucks. I think they've committed to him now and realized that he's the goalie now and certainly going to be the goalie of the future. He's seen a lot of pucks, and you look at you can tell they're a little bit inconsistent just at their youth. At their youth, they're so young, and it's hard sometimes when you're playing all those young guys to get them to play consistent night in and night out. But that win against Rapids was a huge win for them. I mean, they came out early and obviously stepped on Rapids in the first period and were able to hang on, and a lot of it probably had to do with how Bonnell played in the net.
Great Northern, it's an interesting league. It's a Division II league, and I think there's a lot more energy within it because of the opportunity now to get to a state tournament. And Mosinee, as we said, they started off the campaign at 2-5. They've now won 11 games in a row. They're 13-5 overall. They're tied with Lakeland at 6-1 in the conference. Lakeland having a terrific season, 13-3 overall, 6-1. Tomahawk, they had been struggling, and they have really picked it up the last couple of years. They're now 5-2 in the conference, 12-3 overall. Rhinelander 4-1 in the league, 10-3 overall. Those 4 teams all have terrific records, and I'm sure they're going to be battling for the GNC tournament title. And then, of course, they have another GNC tournament basically with the Division II sectional. And then Pines at 2-4 in the conference, 5-11-1 overall. Antigo is 2-5 in the conference, 6-10 overall, while Wapaka and Medford struggling at 1-6 in the conference. You look at Mosinee last night, they beat Pines 6-3. Caden Schmerler, a hat trick. Elliot Yurkovsky had 2 goals. They also won on Monday against Thomas Sparta, who beat Everest last night. Thomas Sparta and Mosinee knocked them off 5-2. Schmerler, 2 goals. Aiden Karst, 34 saves. And a big win in the conference last Friday. Mosinee beat Tomahawk in a battle for first place in the conference, 8-2. A 5-goal third period for Mosinee. Karst had 33 saves. During the course of the season, something I've noticed, Schmerler has been just putting up the goals. And it looks like Karst is starting to pick up in the goal. I mean, having 33 saves on 35 shots against Tomahawk, having 34 saves on 36 shots against Thomas Sparta. It looks like a combination right now for Mosinee where they're getting the offense and also getting some good goaltending.
Yeah, I mean, you look at they're averaging almost 6 goals per game right now. I think, and they're giving up just over 2.5. I think a lot of that has to do with their firepower. I mean, we saw it when we played them.
Their last loss was against you.
Yeah, and I just looked at the schedule, and I think you look at the way that they played the game against us. They've got some really skilled forwards that can push the puck up the ice, and if they get good goaltending out of Karst, I think they can make a big run in that section because it's a conference tournament 2.0 for them. But you look at it, Lakeland's played them tough. I think they beat them at their place. Rhinelander, MJ always gets his guys playing well at the end of the season. So it's going to be a really fun tournament and sectional to watch.
It has an interesting aspect to it. I don't know if I would like it to have a tournament where you could win the conference tournament, then a week or so later have to play that same team for a trip to state. It's really an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
Well, it is, because you play a team twice within a week and a half, and as coaches, you can dial in your game plan a little bit. Something that didn't work, you try something here or there. And you're dealing with student athletes. They go into the game, whether you won the game or lost the game, there's different mentalities from the kids. So it depends on the maturity level of each group and how they respond to it. But yeah, it's certainly something that I'm happy we don't have to deal with if you do a conference tournament followed by that, because I think it just adds a different element to deal with as a coach.
Tomahawk is interesting. I know you're focused on your conference and D1, but that was a program that was really struggling, and they've really turned it up a notch. And I think it's great because they've had some issues in their athletics. They haven't had a lot of success, I think, in basketball, but now they've been able to have a really good season on the ice. And for these schools, they know the opportunity is now there. We're going to talk about the format of state and all that, but boy, the opportunity, they know they're going to have a chance if they play well against these similar teams in their conference to make a state tournament run, and I think Tomahawk's right in that group.
Yeah, I mean, Crispin Binster's been there a few years now, and he's gone through some downs, and it's nice to see him be on some ups because they've got a good group coming from their youth program, and I think that's where they built it. They went into the youth program and have a bunch of birth years back-to-back here that have played really well. They've won state tournaments on the Waha side, and it's translating to their success at the WIA level because those kids, while they're young, they're skilled, they've played together their entire youth career, and for them to band together a little bit and find success, it's good for Chris and good for that program.
Central Wisconsin Storm, they're playing some good hockey. They had 3 games in the past week. Friday night, they defeated Western Wisconsin 4-0, 4 different goal scorers for the Storm. Claire Kalmus had 10 saves for Central Wisconsin. Then Saturday, a game that I had right here on Bull Falls Radio, was a terrific high school hockey game, and the Storm edged for the second time this season St. Croix Valley in overtime, 3-2. Freshman Madeline Kelter, 2 goals. Chloe Lemke had 23 saves in the game. And then last night, another win for the Storm, 5-0 against Wisconsin Valley Lutheran. 5 different goal scorers again, and Claire Kalmus, 18 saves. Right now, it looks like the Storm is starting to get a little more feel offensively. I know in talking to the coaches that, again, there's ups and downs with the offense on the Storm side, and their goaltending tandem is working as they would expect it to work.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for them is balance. Every night it's somebody else that's going to take the lead on the scoring on the offensive end, and I think you can count on Chloe, you can count on Claire on the back end, but they've been able to provide balance for each for every game. I mean, it's not the same person scoring night in and night out. They've been able to spread the puck around and create offense, and like I said, I think having Chloe and Claire back there is going to be really fun to watch as they transition through the playoffs and late season here.
And it's going to be interesting again, and I know that you've had to deal with this. I think any hockey coach, if they're in it long enough, has to deal with that goalie mentality. They both want to be in there every night. And unfortunately, that's the one position you can't have line changes. You could try, I guess, but it would be very interesting. As you look at it, these girls. I mean, they both have been just terrific performers. It's got to be, it's wonderful on one hand. I mean, obviously, to have this incredible talent, but I can't remember ever when I guarantee you, I would think that these are the 2 best goaltenders in the state, and they're playing for the same team. I mean, that's a headache in one sense, isn't it?
That's as a head coach, the goalie position is my weakest spot. It's my weakest knowledge spot. But making that decision because you're telling somebody they're not playing that night. And I think that is the hardest part of this because they've got 2 outstanding goaltenders, senior returning goalie of the year in our state, Chloe Lemke, super athletic goaltender in Claire Kalmus that has just it's a compete level that's really high, and I think both of them have fed off each other. They play well. The other one knows they're going to play well because it's their opportunity. And I think it's going to be a tough decision for the coaches. And I know that both of those girls are mature enough to support that and support each other to make sure that their team can play long enough and hopefully make a run at the end here. Because to have those two as choices, you're pretty lucky.
Absolutely. We got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back and have our first guest for this evening. We'll be talking to the head hockey coach of the Mosinee Indians. Again, 11-game winning streak right now, Troy Michalski. We'll talk to the coach coming up as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. Again, I'm Chad Holmes, and special co-host is my normal co-host, Jeff Gress, unavailable tonight. So going with a bit of a hockey focus this evening as I'm joined across the way by the Wausau West head hockey coach, B.J. Brandt. And to continue along the hockey topic, our coach guest for this week from Mosinee High School, the head coach of the Mosinee Indians, Troy Michalski. Coach, first of all, thank you for spending a few minutes with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, your team has been playing some outstanding hockey recently on a nice long win streak, 11 games in a row, now atop the Great Northern Conference and a tie with Lakeland. I guess to start things off, what's been working? You haven't lost the game since the Marathon Cup championship round, playing some really good hockey, putting up goals. Goaltending's been solid. What's been working for your team recently?
I think down the stretch right now, part of our success has been obviously working hard, getting into the forecheck. But to go on a win streak like we have right now, like you brought up earlier, we've got consistent scoring from all three lines, and I think that's key when it's just not one line scoring for us. So we're getting production for a lot of different guys right now, and that's kind of been our key right now, and playing better defense than we did earlier in the year.
Hey Troy, you guys got your conference tournament coming up here. How do you go into this conference tournament knowing it probably predicts the seed in your sectional, and then you're going to see maybe some of these teams here within a couple of weeks again?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one with actually how our sectionals laid out and how our conference tournament's laid out. A lot of times we see those teams twice, so you get really familiar with them, and it's the third time during the season. So I think that gets difficult, and sometimes you have to change things up with your game plan a little bit because they've caught on to you and try to do some things different and see what's been effective in the past. So we'll definitely watch them film on some of those things and try to look for some trends going forward because, a third time in a row gets tough.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the GNC tournament began before the split into Division I and Division II. Is that correct? Has this been going on for a number of years?
No, you're right. We did. We started the conference tournament just before the two divisions came, and like BJ brought up earlier, with that split now and with the two divisions, our sectional happens to be pretty similar to what our conference is, minus a couple teams. So a lot of times you do end up seeing the same teams, and that did take part. A couple of years after was the Division II after we started the conference tournament.
And along that line, do you feel like maybe going back to a normal home and home in the conference and going away from the conference tournament might be more of an advantageous for the teams? Because basically it feels like you have back-to-back tournaments. You have the conference tournament, then of course you have the sectional tournament. As you explained, it does cause some difficulties. Would you be of the mindset to at least have a discussion on maybe going back to what traditionally was the conference setup of the home and home?
Yeah, we've talked about our own coaching staff in the last year or two just because it's been that way. Obviously, it would be a conference decision and what all the other coaches wanted and athletic directors, but I would probably tend to lean in favor of maybe going back the way it was before just because of how it plays out now. A lot of times you're playing the same teams 2 weeks in a row trying to make the trip to the sate tournament.
Troy, you've obviously been on an outstanding win streak here. As a coach, how do you keep things fresh with your guys to get them ready for the next night and not worry about what's in the rear view a little bit?
We try to change up practices. We try to have some fun stuff every once in a while because the season gets long. It's a grind. Obviously, having success right now is helping that. But we still, our focus, even our game last night, I don't think we came out the best. So to strive to make ourselves better every day, no matter who our opponent is, has kind of been our focus throughout this whole thing. And for the most part, we've done a good job. We've tried to go out and play the pace that we want to play, regardless who we're playing. But it's tough, and you still got to make it fun for the guys. And that can be a challenge because you want to work on things. And the season gets long, and we're getting where guys are banged up a little bit. So you just, got to still put in the work, but make it enjoyable for them.
So on Friday, Troy, you guys go up to Eagle River for the traditional tournament up there, and you got youth school. Fun little overnight. Talk a little bit about what goes into that and what you're looking forward to with that Friday-Saturday matchup.
I'm really excited. Obviously, playing youth school Friday night, that's a good test for us. They're always a good program year in and year out. As far as the experience, the Pines tournament's been going on for, I'm going to say probably around 25 years. It might even be longer than that. I think it's a great experience for our kids. When COVID came, we kind of got away with staying with the families, but we're getting back to this year where our players get to stay with players from Pines and from youth school. And I think that's a good friendship building. Some of those kids that I've had in the past have remained friends with those guys for a long time and hopefully become lifelong friends. So not only is the tournament good, there's good competition there with youth school, Hayward, Pines. But I think it's a great bonding and a great atmosphere for our kids and build some friendships from that.
Again, we're talking to the head hockey coach at Mosinee High School, Troy Michalski, here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. Let's talk about a few of your players. And one guy that I think I almost mention every week because it feels like the Mosinee fans better bring a hat because there's been a few hat tricks from Caden Schmerler. 32 goals now on the season. He continues to light the lamp on a regular basis. You lost some offense from a year ago, and Caden was back, and obviously a guy that was expected to put up some good numbers, and he has not disappointed, has he?
No, he hasn't. And Caden's strength, obviously he's a big kid. He can use his size to his advantage, but I think his biggest strength, and he's a goal scorer, is his shot and his release. He can let it go quick. He's really accurate. It's a hard shot. Some guys can shoot really hard, but they're not accurate. And Caden really has it sighted in right now. And a quick release, a lot of times the goalies don't know it's coming, so I think that's key. He has a lot of good skills, obviously, like I said, size and speed. But I think his release on his shot is probably his number one thing.
He was somebody that I think was expected to be a top performer for you this season. Who has stepped up? Who has been some of the players that have replaced some of the graduating seniors that helped your team make a pretty deep run a year ago? Who have been some of the keys to the success of this year's version of the Mosinee squad?
I think another one of our captains on our team, I think Grant Kuklinski, not that it was a surprise. He didn't have big numbers last year, but he's having a really good year. And guys that have not got a lot of time maybe in the past, because we had graduation. We had a big senior class last year. So we have guys like Spencer Sawirsky stepping up, Ethan Oatman, Jagger Dine, like guys that didn't have huge roles in the past, have had their opportunity to play, and they're putting up numbers. And that's a tough situation to walk into. And as a coach, you don't know exactly what you're going to get from everybody. You have a good idea of how they can play and what they're going to do, but when their role increases every year. So right now, I've been pleasantly surprised with how a lot of guys are playing and the numbers that they're putting up.
Along that line, starting the year off, you had such a big senior class that did graduate, and you started off with some pretty good competition early. Stevens Point, Ashwaubenon, the Marathon Cup tournament, and you were at 2-5. What was the mindset at that point? Because these were guys that were going into new roles, I imagine, a lot of them this year, and having that start where you did not win a lot of games early. Obviously, you took a lot of lessons, but what was the mindset at that point of the season before this win streak?
To be honest, I think the guys had a hard time with it a little bit to start with. You never want to start 0-3 and 2-5, like you said. But we did play a tough schedule. We played Wassa West, obviously, in the Marathon Cup. We played Spash, Ashwaubenon, some of those teams. And we knew going in, and part of the reason I would like to play those teams early, too, is, it's a good test for us and the pace you want to play it with some of those bigger schools and good competition. So I think that only makes us better. Would I like to have got some wins out of those? Absolutely. But I think it makes us a better team down the road if we play tough competition. And we played that right out of the gate with some of those teams I mentioned, and I think that only made us better. I know our record wasn't there, but I think the guys see the results right now. If we played tough teams, and we've gotten better. And I didn't mention my decor last time when you talked about new guys. Our D have stepped up as well with like Gavin Obremski, Elliot Michalski. Some of those guys are playing really good on the back end of putting up good numbers as well.
So, Troy, you've got about 5 or 6, kind of the last 25% from a games percentage jammed in here always in these last couple of weeks. What are you looking for from your guys as the regular season comes to an end and getting ready for that playoff push?
I just want us to be consistent. That's my biggest thing, and we talk about it every day, just to be consistent and put in the work ethic, and you can't take time off and those things. So that's our biggest push right now, is just the consistency of what we want. Not make the mental mistakes in the games, those types of things, because it's getting late in the year. And you've been through this. You get in the playoff run, and one mistake could cost you a game, and just that mental toughness. Going in, if something doesn't go right, how are we going to bounce back and respond? And that's kind of a big thing we've been pushing right now, to be mentally strong, to be productive, to work hard, and hopefully that can take us a long way into the playoffs.
Again, we're talking to Mosinee head hockey coach Troy Michalski here on the Big High School Sports Show. One guy we haven't talked about as well is your goaltender. And in the past week, some pretty good numbers for Aiden Karst when you give up 34, 35, 36 shots and only allow 2 goals. He's put up some really pretty impressive performances in the past week. When you look at your goaltender, what do you see? Because obviously, in order to win conference championships and sectional championships and maybe state championships, you need to be pretty good between the pipes. How do you feel about what you have in goal?
Yeah, Aiden, obviously he's a sophomore right now, and I think he made big strides last year. At the end of the year, he had a really good run through our conference tournament, and in the playoffs last year, he played great. I think he would say that it wasn't the best start to the season for him, but like you said, he's been playing well lately for us, and we're going to need him to be solid down the road and, continue to make the saves, control the rebounds, all those things. So his last few games have been good, and hopefully he keeps that rolling.
I'd like to ask coaches about the state of the entire program, because obviously we watch what you're doing on the varsity side and talk about the results and what's going on there. In terms of Mosinee hockey, how are the numbers? How is the health of the program right now?
It's probably the best it's been as far as I can ever remember, and probably in our program history. Right now, we started the year with 34 guys. We have a full varsity, full JV. Our youth numbers are sitting really good. We have at least 2 teams at every level. Some have 3. So our numbers are looking really good. And obviously with the numbers pushes the competition, which makes your varsity program better when guys are always battling to be in the lineup. So we're sitting in a really good spot, and it should stay that way for a long time, which is, a great sign for our program.
So, Troy, this past week, East Merrill hosted the Walter Cokevale Cup JV tournament up there. Talk about what that tournament win meant for those guys, because they're the varsity of the future.
They are, and the guys came back. I wasn't at the game, but I saw them when they got back to the rink, and they were really excited about it. And I got to throw this in, BJ. One of our guys said, "Coach, we got West this time." So. They were obviously excited, and it's a big win for them, and they've competed all year. They have a really good record. They're working hard, and those guys want their shot, and like you said, they are the future of our program. A lot of those guys are freshmen and sophomores, and they're going to have to step into those big roles later on. So getting them competition and the opportunity to win that was really exciting for them.
We are almost to the end of January into February, and I think is for hockey folks, February really is the most exciting time of the year when you get to the battle for a conference, and then of course the playoffs. What is the mindset with your guys? Is there do you feel it with the way they're playing, the success they've had, that they're ready for what we call the big push towards the end of the season into the postseason?
I think so. Even last night, we had a really good kind of moment in our locker room last night, and we didn't get off to the best start. But I think there's a real buy-in right now, and there's excitement. And it's good when you're winning, and obviously things stay positive, and a lot more positive when they're that way. But I think there's a real excitement. I think there's that desire to be good. And I think that it has to be key going down the road that we're going to stick together. In a good locker room, helps that going down the road. Everybody's really buying in together with that, and we don't have any issues there. And I think that's a big part of success as well.
BJ, any final questions or thoughts for Coach Michalski?
No, I certainly will be watching you down the road here, Troy, and wish you guys the best of luck.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
Coach, again, congrats on the win streak. Obviously, a very fun game, a big game against University School on Friday, and then, of course, the conference tournament after that. But best of luck to your team, and again, thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Again, the head hockey coach at Mosinee High School, Troy Michalski, joining us here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio. We're going to look at some of these sectionals, talk a little bit about what goes into the sectional meetings and what Coach Brandt looks at in terms of when he votes for sectional seedings. We're going to talk about that coming up as we continue here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230 WXCO. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. BullFallsRadio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. Again, thanks to Mosinee head hockey coach Troy Michalski for joining us. I'm Chad Holmes, along with BJ Brandt, again sitting in for Jeff Gress tonight. And let's talk about, because we touched on it with the coach, and right now, and I think, again, people are well aware where we stand. There are now 2 divisions in high school hockey and on the boys' side. And you have the sectionals, 4 sectionals on both sides. 32 teams in Division 2, 57, 58 in Division 1, something in that general area, right?
Yeah, I think it's 55, 56, something in there, 54. I think it fluctuates a little bit depending on who's stayed up at varsity or gone down to a JV schedule.
So it's basically 8 team sections in D2, and then you have to deal with about 14 teams in your Division 1 bracket. And looking ahead, as you said, coming up in about 10 days' time, you will have the Division the sectional seeding meetings. And when you look at your bracket, every year since this has occurred, what is it, the third year of the...
Third year.
So you got these powerhouse programs. Hudson has been, I think, probably the team of the last half decade, to say the least. Then you have Eau Claire Memorial. You have Eau Claire North. You have Chippewa Falls. You have Superior, which is, doesn't matter what their record is, they're going to be trouble when you get to that point. You got Wausau West. You got Stevens Point. You've had Wisconsin Rapids make it to the state tournament. DC Everest, I think about 5 years ago, made it to the state tournament. This is just one of the brackets in Division 1. At some point, we'd like to get to an 8-4 because there's so many good teams, aren't there?
Well, I think not only from that perspective, but just to get more teams at the state tournament, to be able to enjoy the process of getting down to Madison, playing in front of a big crowd, advancing to the state tournament. Because you look at the way that Waha, the other side, so there's 2 sides to the hockey world. There's the USA hockey side, which the kids play in all the way up until they get to high school. And then you've got the WA side or the NFHS side of it. So you look at the way the Waha structure, they have multiple divisions of everything. They actually have 3 divisions there. So multiple, like A, AA, and just the way they categorize the size of the communities and the size of their organizations, and they all offer state championships at all of the team levels. It would be nice to see us get to something like that within the WA. Now, obviously, there's a lot less teams because you're talking community-based hockey, and then you've got the high school version of it. So,
right.
So it's a little bit different structure, but I think, as a coach association, we've gone through and we've kind of got to find what's next because we think we've solved the venue part. We've been able to get to 2 divisions to allow more teams the opportunity to play longer and compete for state championships. I think it would be nice to see us get to an 8-4 to give the Division 1 teams a similar opportunity that the Division 2 teams have.
With the major change of venue, and that is a significant change. It took a lot of work for you and the coaches and the WIAA. Is it almost like no more change for a while, and that's kind of the thing that you think, man, you'd like to see again the 8-4, but boy, when you have a major change, sometimes you're probably going to hear from the WI. Well, let's see how this works out before we make another major change.
Well, I think as our group, though, as our coaches group, we're always trying to improve the game. And we know we're going to put things forward that are going to get shut down. And we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. So I think just the nature of the process, there's not going to be any major change coming anytime soon because everything seems to be a 3 to 5 year process. Yeah. And it's hard to predict where we're going to be in 3 to 5 years. Because if we get to 96 teams, if some of these co-ops split up a little bit and we get to that between 90 and 96, I think we have a great argument to go to an 8 and a 4 two-division tournament.
Numbers equal then.
Yeah. I mean,
based on the percentage getting to state equal.
Correct. And I think that's where, I mean, this is back when Pete was coaching and when I was playing for Pete, this was being talked about. I mean, they were always talking about how do we get to two-division state tournament.
Because it is exciting for these schools in D2. I mean, we've seen it in the last couple of years. Boy, when you see these schools that haven't been there is that excitement. And along the same lines, what you first talked about, you have a chance to grow the game if you have 12 teams make it because there's an excitement within the school. You'll have younger kids who want to be part of it, and then more people want to be part of it. When you have a winning program, you have more people that want to be part of it, don't you?
Yeah, I think it in your community, I mean, you look at the places that have won. You look at a place like Beaver Dam. Girls basketball, they've been great for years. Mm-hmm. Well, it's been interesting to watch them build their girls hockey program. It started slow. Well, now they've got a little momentum there on the girls side, and you can see success in a community in multiple sports in the winter season. And I think when you're giving people the opportunity to make it to a state tournament, to play on television.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It is.
Even the beginning games when you're live stream on the net on the web
but it's still the equivalent because they have the pro cameras. I mean, you can tell a difference between the normal streams you see. You can't even kind of tell the numbers, but then you have the close-ups, you have the names and the graphics and everything. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, as a high school student athlete, how fun is that
right.
to see and to go back and watch it and you get to introduce yourself and you have
right.
their names spelled right, just those type of things that add to what the state tournament is, and the more people you can expose to, I think, grows the game for sure.
I know you have a meeting where you're going to be able to talk all about it, and I know you probably won't want to share all your secrets yet, but when you look at your sectional bracket, who's impressed you this year? What are the things that have kind of jumped out? Because obviously you get a chance to play a lot of these teams, and you obviously keep an eye on them because you know that you're going to have to vote on this eventually and also play them in the playoffs. Who's impressed you in your bracket?
Well, honestly, I think first-year head coach Evan Nelson up at Superior. I mean, I think he's taking over for Jason Kalin, a long-time, super successful coach up there. I understand what he's gone through, and for him to put his team in a position to be in that top part of that bracket for losing 21 seniors a year ago, I think that's been impressive. I think Chippewa Falls has been really impressive going forward here. I think to play them at their place is going to be really tough. They've got a fun environment to play in. I think Spash. I mean, Spash is young and skilled, and they've been there. I think you look at where Eau Claire Memorial was at the beginning and where they are now. They've probably shown the most growth throughout the season because they're clicking on all cylinders.
That was interesting because that reminds me when we talked at the start of the year. I asked about Eau Claire Memorial. There's always expectations with the Memorial, but it felt like maybe not at the top. Boy, they've just been very, very solid.
Super solid. Up and down their lineup is super deep. I think for them on the back end, they've got two guys back there that have logged a lot of minutes for them, and you can count on them every moment. We haven't seen their starter when we played them both times.
You have definitely developed some depth for the Eau Claire Memorial goaltending crew. I'll say that much.
We have, unfortunately. But, look at where they were at the beginning and where they are now, beating Hudson for the first time twice.
What about Hudson real quickly? Because, I mean, they have been the program recently. They have been the targeted team. They have found ways to get through this monster sectional and then, of course, at state as well. haven't really heard the same amount with Hudson this year. What do you know?
Well, I think they've played a few games over in Minnesota, so you don't get to see them a lot. They obviously are in the Big Rivers Conference and are able to, that conference championship is still up for grabs. And I think
talk about a loaded league, huh?
Oh my gosh! Well, and I think
and then you got that Division II team hanging out and stealing all the thunder.
So I was just talking today with a coach in our section, and New Richmond will probably have some determination in our seeding process here because all of those guys have played them, and their conference championship is still up for grabs. So I think you look at how that plays out, and then you look at common opponents to see who they've played. And New Richmond's one that all of them have, so you can kind of see where they are because New Richmond's one of the top 5 Division II teams right now.
Top 2. I mean, they've been right up there with Springs all season long. It's been really consistent. Looking at the Great Northern bracket, we talked about Mosinee, talked about Lakeland. It feels like in Mosinee hosting this year. Again, I wasn't going to say this on the air to Coach Michalski, but boy, it's lined up for Mosinee right now. The way that number one, they're playing in their conference, and number two, it does matter where that sectional final is, doesn't it?
I think it does. I mean, for the familiarity side of it, to make sure that you guys know where they're going, they get to drive to the rink. They, if Troy's team gets to the sectional final there, I mean, it's such a I'll put it two ways. One, it's great to host it, but sometimes it is a little stress on the coach. It's a little stress on the host school, and hopefully, they get through that part because it's stressful. I mean, you've got a host. You're going to have a massive crowd that comes in to watch this game, no matter what communities are there. But yeah, it's a great place to play, and for Troy to host that, and you got to like the feeling they looking ahead. And hopefully they continue to play well.
And the Central Wisconsin Storm, when you look ahead, they have been to the state tournament. I've lost count. 15 of 16 years or something like that. Some amazing stretch run. Of course, they are the defending champions. Looking at the bracket, they have Superior, the number 1 ranked team in the state. Storm are number 2 ranked team in the state. Superior beat the Storm, I think 7-3 down in Madison over the holidays. Superior comes and plays at Marathon Park a week from Saturday. Sometimes the bracket does not be all that kind. You know that. I mean, I would think you'd hope that Superior was somewhere else if you're the Storm, and I think likewise the Superior would hope the Storm was somewhere else.
Well, and they're gonna have some fun here when they get to play each other in a week. Because it'll be interesting to see what the coaches do, because the game has super significance in the seeding process.
Well, for the Storm, they have to win.
Right. I mean, because Superior got them down in Madison, and I think that's the last time they lost. So,
yes, it is.
So you look at what they've been able to adjust in their game since Superior took it to them a little bit. But look at the way their bracket is. I mean, they've got Superior's 1, Central Wisconsin Storm is ranked 2, and Hayward's 4.
Yeah. So
you look at where they're at. That's a loaded section.
Hayward is always a pain in the neck whenever you see them. I mean, really, in a good way. It's a great compliment because I've seen them play the Storm in significant games. And, boy, again, that's because when you look at normally, you feel like, frankly, over the years, the Storm has had to win one game. Because, I mean, you look at the brackets. I mean, we're just going to be honest here. Some of these teams are struggling badly. This year, that sectional semifinal, whoever gets that 2 instead of the 1, Hayward.
It's a big difference. I mean, how seeding shakes out for them is that second round matchup is going to be either one that they like or one that they're going to really have to work for. But you look at this sectional, and I mean, combined, I think they have 7 losses maybe combined between those 3 schools, and they've played almost 60 games, and it's really good skill. I think with Hayward, they're young, they're skilled, they've got a good goaltender on the back end. The Storm is super balanced in how they play, and each line can score, and they've shown night in and night out, especially on this little run here, that balance helps them, and then you look at Superior, and Superior's they're a skilled, fast team and physical team.
They haven't lost to a team from Wisconsin. All 3 of their losses this season have been to teams from Minnesota. So, obviously, and that brings up the next point, because when you do go into that meeting, what do you look at? because you're going to have to talk about Superior. You're going to have to try to compare what they've done against some of these other teams from Minnesota. You have to look at what the teams from your league. You obviously got some teams from your conference that are involved in this bracket. Actually, I think all the teams from your conference are involved in this bracket. Then you look at the Big Rivers as well. I remember a coach, a basketball coach, who showed me one time he had this huge binder that he just basically keeps all this information all the time throughout the whole season just for the seeding meeting. Doesn't have to worry about that on the basketball side anymore because they use the computers. You and the coaches on the hockey side still get together and decide to seed based the old-fashioned way. What do you look at?
Well, first I make a big spreadsheet that shows all the games of who played against who and the results. So I go through and
do you have a student assistant for that?
I don't. I actually during my lunch today I started to put that together. And then I look at overall record. I think is somewhat included, but I look at more the sectional record because you try to play as many games as you can against your sectional opponents to make the seeding go a little bit easier. Head-to-head is super important for me. Did you play the team? When did you play the team? What was the result? And now that isn't always the end-all, be-all, depending on, significant player out or somebody playing a back-to-back. I think the interesting one in our section right now is the Chippewa loss to Superior because Chippewa played us the night before and then had to go up to Superior. And to see how that plays out in coaches' minds within our section will be interesting.
And they outshot them. I mean, there's so many different aspects. They can use that. Hey, we just one night where if their goalie was on this head, that doesn't mean they're better than us.
Correct. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see how that. But I love to look at the head-to-head. And then you look at like our section, we've got two conferences. You got the Valley Conference, you got the Big Rivers. And as a coach, sometimes you go into those meetings and you're like, okay, well, how are they going to vote? How are they going to vote? How do they value our conference? How do we value their conference? For me, when you look at it, if teams are equal, you kind of got to go back a little bit to the conference standings because that's a season-long result. And there's going to be times when, teams beat each other because there's rivalry. It's just a different matchup. Eau Claire North, Eau Claire Memorial, that could be either way every time just based on emotion because they're high school student athletes. So I try to take all of that in. And then there is a computer version of things for us to kind of reaffirm or maybe cause some chaos with things as to how strength of schedule goes in there. Where you're ranked by the computer. Some guys will go in there and be like, well, this, and this ranking says we're this. So I mean, my spreadsheet's massive. It's got lots of different rankings on it. It's got my thoughts on it. It's got what I call big wins and bad losses. I'll look at those and see how that plays into the factor. But for me, if when an appeal comes down, for me, it's a lot of times it's head to head. And I think, coaches are really honest about it because you could go in and vote what you think will be the best matchup for you. And I've seen that happen over the years whether I sat in with Pete and ran the spreadsheets or voted here, and I get disappointed when coaches do that because
I would think you lose respect there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's a reason we're still doing it instead of having a computer do it. So let's make sure that we're honest about it. We do it right and make sure that, more importantly, we get the seeds right.
Right.
Because you want to make sure that, A, the seeds are right, and then you can start prepping what your path looks like going forward.
And do you ever sense that the conference is sticking together? That's one thing I've heard from time to time, especially it's better when you have a balance. And obviously you have a closer balance with this group. But sometimes where there's only like two or teams in a conference in a bracket, they sometimes feel like they're getting beat up on. Do you ever sense that?
I'll be honest. I think when we were outnumbered back when it was one division, the Great Northern versus the Valley, I think there was some of that. I haven't seen a ton of it yet in the one division or the two divisions where we're kind of hooked up with the Big Rivers. But last couple of years, it's been pretty cut and dry. Right. This year, it's a little muddier. So it'll be interesting to see how the seeds come out, and especially when you go to the appeals.
Right.
That's where you can worry a little bit about conference alignment. But again, you got to trust that they're going to vote the right way and vote based on the argument and whatever information they've presented between the two coaches.
We have to take a quick break, but we're going to come back with our student-athlete guest from the Central Wisconsin Storm, senior Hannah Baumann. And for you basketball fans out there, yes, I'm going to tell you what's been going on. We're going to have a basketball segment, some significant activity going on. The Wisconsin Valley Conference, big upset last night that caused a little bit of a headache for a potential game on Friday that was supposed to be for first place in the league. And now DC Everest has more work to do, and Marshfield has a bit of a cushion, but we'll talk about that in our basketball segment coming up as we have one more hour to go. It is the Wednesday evening, 6 to 8 p.m. each Wednesday night, the Big High School Sports Show. Again, BJ Brandt, the Wausau West Warrior High School head hockey coach, joining us as, again, we have Jeff Gress joining us again next week. But Hannah Baumann will be coming up as we continue. The Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. And again, if you haven't already, download the Civic Media app. More to come in just a moment. And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. I'm Chad Holmes. Again, joining me this week as Jeff Gress, unable to be here. Guest co-host BJ Brandt, the hockey coach at Wausau West High School. And we're very happy to welcome our student-athlete guest for this week, senior captain for the Central Wisconsin Storm, Hannah Baumann. And Hannah, first of all, thank you for popping on over and joining us tonight.
Yeah, of course.
Well, let's talk about. Well, first of all, I said to you off the air, it's always nice when our student-athlete guest did something good the night before. And you scored the first goal last night in the 5-0 win against the Wisconsin Valley Union. And it looks like your team is really starting to hit its stride. I think there were some bumps in the road early, but what's your take on how the team is playing right now?
I definitely think that there's always room for improvement, but we're kind of like you said, we're starting to hit our stride. We're getting to where we want to be. We've still got a lot of work to do before March, but we're getting there.
One question I want to ask before we let BJ jump in is when you come off a state championship, that's the end of the road. You got to the top of the mountain, and then you have to start all over again. When you know what the end result can be, is it hard to start all over again and have to do all the things again to get you into the position in order to get back and have another chance to win a title?
I mean, it's definitely got its challenges, but I don't know. I would say it's difficult, but it's very, very worth it. It's a different approach each year in a way, just because you don't have exactly what you had the year before. But it's definitely worth it.
Hannah, talk a little bit about what your career's been, because obviously you were a role player early on in your career. You're somebody who saw a decent amount of varsity minutes young, and what that's been like over your 4-year career, and kind of reflect back a little bit on where you started and where you're at now.
Well, I started out when we had a pretty good team my freshman year. A lot of numbers. I think we had like 13 seniors. It was crazy. But my role was strictly penalty kill, or when someone would get hurt or something like that. And then there was an opportunity where one of our players couldn't play, and our coach took a chance, and then I fit in really well with a couple of the seniors, and it all kind of just aligned. And then from there on, it was my minutes started going up and my production started going up. But I think having to earn that ice time my freshman year has really shaped me as a player and a person, because I didn't walk right in and just have it handed to me on a silver platter. I had to work for it, and I didn't get it until probably end of January.
And, of course, stats don't tell the whole story, but just looking at your career stats, you went from 3 goals your freshman year to 6 goals your sophomore year to 13 goals your junior year, and already plenty of hockey still to play, 19 goals. When you look at your game, what are the areas that you think you've made the biggest stride since you stepped on the ice as a freshman up to where you are scoring that goal last night against the Union?
I would think I'd probably say my biggest strides have been just like working with different people, like figuring out how to work with people that I might not necessarily have a ton of chemistry with, like having to work with like just a plethora of skill level and strengths and weaknesses and whatever, and figuring out where I can benefit the line and where they can benefit the line. And I think just learning how to mesh myself with those people is probably the best thing that I've.
Real quick before you jump in, and I know as a coach you know this, and every time I go to an end of season banquet, whether it's yours with West or the Storm, that's always one of the things that's talked about is there are so many bumps, interpersonal bumps, ice time bumps, that I don't think people realize how important that learning process is in order to handle the little things that always come up, whether it's in sports or whether it's in school or whether it's in our job environment. I imagine that the folks that aren't in those locker rooms or on the ice don't realize how much work has to be done in order to stay on the same page with your teammates. And I imagine as a captain, that's something that you have to work on as well.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. It's, I don't know, the past 3 years it's kind of been, all right, just kind of figuring out how, like, what I can do to stay on the same page as everybody else. But now it's like, what can I do to keep everyone on the same page? So, yeah, that's kind of my role this year, is just kind of keeping everyone in the loop and on the same page and still working together without,
having the roof cave in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what it's been like to share this experience with your dad.
Honestly, it's something that I wouldn't trade for the world. Like, I know, like, when he came in coaching my high school team last year, and we talked a lot about it. He was like, are you sure? Like, is it okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And, like, obviously you're going to have those little cat fights when you get home. And then I walk in the house and I talk to my mom. I go, you got to do something about her. You got to do something about him. And then he'll walk in right after me. He goes, you got to do something about her. And it's just, but like, I don't know. I think that it's really brought us a lot closer. Just because we can share that experience, and I don't know, we get to spend more time with each other than we would, especially with me going to college next year. So I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Again, we're talking to Hannah Baumann from the Central Wisconsin Storm here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. You go to Wausau West, correct?
I do.
I always have to ask these Storm players, because you got Wausau West, you got Wausau East, you got DC Everest, you got Mosinee, and even this year you got Wittenberg, Burnhamwood. Yeah. You've had Marathon, you've had Merrill. I mean, all these schools. What is it like to be part of a co-op? What are the positives of being part of a co-op? What are the tough things about being a co-op? Because it is different. We were discussing a little bit off the air that, you're practicing at Mosinee, you're practicing at Marathon Park, you're practicing at Greenhack. I don't know if you go to Merrill anymore, but talk a little bit about being part of a co-op and maybe the challenges along with the advantages of it as well.
For advantages, I would say, like, you definitely get to know people that you would never have the opportunity to know. Some of my best friends have come from Mosinee and Everest, and I never would have gotten the opportunity to get to know them had I not been a part of a co-op. There's a lot of challenges that come with co-ops. One of them is like just simple things, getting to practice. Like we've got a freshman at East, and we don't have anybody else at East, so we've got to coordinate who's going to get her and how she's getting to places. But I don't know. I mean, overall, I would say that the good things outweigh the bad things. It's definitely got its struggles as far as practices and what rink we're meeting at to leave from. Because we've definitely had girls go to Marathon Park when we're leaving from Greenheck, and we're like, hey, where are you? And they're like, well, I'm at Marathon Park. I'm like, all right, well, we'll see you in 15 minutes. Like, yeah, but goods definitely outweigh the bads.
Very good.
Talk a little bit about what you want to do beyond high school. I mean, what's your post high school plans?
Well, I want to go to college. I'm not really sure where yet. I've applied to a few different places and gotten into quite a few of them. But I definitely want to try to play hockey. I'm looking right now specifically at D3. But yeah, I would really like to continue my hockey career and go to school to study psychology, potentially go into clinical psychology past that. So.
What do you like to do to get away from it? Obviously, hockey takes a lot of time. School takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
What do you like to do for fun?
Hockey is a lot of my fun, but I'm pretty involved in music at my school. A lot of choir, extracurricular choir, pop concert, all of that stuff. I play a little bit of guitar at home, so it's a lot of that that occupies a lot of my other time. But other than that, I spend a lot of time with my family and my friends and my girlfriend and all of that stuff, and that kind of just, I don't know, that's enjoyable for me. So.
Very good. Let's talk about winning a state championship, because it is rare. I mean, it's hard to do. And you and your teammates a year ago were able to earn a state championship. And what was it like? I guess, what was the experience as not only being a state champion, but being a significant part of the team and helping that crew get over the finish line? How would you describe it?
I don't really know if there are words to describe it, but I think one of the parts about it that I will absolutely never forget is we won, and I looked at one of my teammates, and her name's Mackenzie Bouch. She's one of the other captains this year. I looked at her, and she goes, I remember when we were sitting here watching the state games, and it was like, holy crap, we just did that. It was absolutely insane. Definitely something that I won't forget. I remember getting on the ice and celebrating and whatever, and you could probably find it somewhere, but Gabby went right to her dad and I went right to my dad, and there's that was definitely an experience that I wouldn't trade. It was definitely a cool experience. It was great for everybody, but being able to experience that with my dad, the one who got me into hockey and has coached me all the way through, that was absolutely insane. And yeah.
You don't want to trade it, but you want to add to it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Again, we're talking to Hannah Baumann, senior for the Central Wisconsin Storm. Talk about your team. Who are the other players that maybe not lean on, but the players that you have been providing the big lift for your team to allow you to have the success you've had this season?
Right. Well, obviously our goalies, both Chloe Lemke and Claire.
Not bad having the top two in the state.
No kidding. No, but those two are definitely a big pillar of our success. But we've got some other players. We've got Tristan Wickland, who provides a lot of her stats aren't necessarily the highest on the team, but
gritty, isn't it?
Yeah, very. I love playing on a line with her. Just really hard worker. But we've got Gabby Heiser, who's put some points on the board. So that's cool. But we've also got we've got our grinders. We've got Mackenzie. We've got Maddie Kelter. We've got a lot of grinders who are just willing to put in the hard work, which is absolutely necessary.
So you guys have been pretty balanced offensively here recently. Talk about, you go into a game, you want to find the back of the net yourself, but talk about what your strategy is and how you handle that, because somebody might be off that night, and as a captain, you have to deal with that as well as your own game.
Right. Well, I mean, everybody's going to have their off days. That's just how it's going to be. I think it's just a matter of when you go in the locker room, like you go in the locker room in between periods, and then the tendency that a lot of teams have is you go in there and you're like, well, we're not doing this good. We're not doing this good. And it's just a thing of as bad as we might be playing, like we can't let that completely take over our thought process, because the minute that we start to focus on all of those things and stop focusing on, okay, what are we actually doing okay? And I don't know, when I worded in the locker room, I'm like, all right, we've got an opportunity to get better. It's not something that we're doing bad. There's room for improvement, and we can do this or this or this, but we've got to stop doing this.
Talk a little bit about hockey players, Chad, are known for their pregame routine. You know, everything's got to be the same. Mm-hmm. Everything's got to be routine. Talk about what your pregame routine is, maybe from post school on a home game, maybe instead of the travel game. Talk about what that looks like.
Well, typically I go home for a little bit, kind of de-stress, change into my warm-ups. And then I kind of just probably get something to eat, super small, head to the rink. Once I get to the rink, I genuinely don't talk to anybody. That sounds awful, but I really, I put my earbuds in, and I listen to my music, I take my stick, warm up, let everybody know what time we got to be in the locker room, and then just kind of zone in, a little bit of visualization, and then go in the locker room, spend some time with my team, and then get to it.
We only have a minute or two left because I promised you at 7:20 you asked me what I'm going to do. I guess two more questions. Number one, what does your team have to be better at when you get to the playoffs? What areas because you know that it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard
absolutely.
When you get to the playoffs. Where do you have to be better in order to get to the goal?
Obviously, we're getting pucks to the net, but we got to stop shooting just to shoot. We got to shoot to score, which is obviously it's possible with the girls that we've got and the talent that we've got. But we've definitely got to be more selective on our shots, but we've got to move the puck a lot too. Because right now it's hard when we're playing the teams that we're playing, because we can. It's easy for us to get caught up in this. Well, I could skate it all the way down the ice by myself. It's easy to get caught up in that with the teams that we're playing against right now. But it's a thing of, okay, yes, we could do that, or we could work on moving the puck, seeing different plays that we might not usually be able to run. That's when you really got to pull together and start working.
And our final question we always ask of our student athlete guest is, as a senior, and you know that you're heading down the stretch of your high school career.
Yeah.
If you have freshmen on your squad.
Absolutely.
If you were to give one piece of advice to a freshman who is just starting their road through their high school hockey career, what piece of advice would you give from what you've learned over the last 4 years?
You probably hear this a lot, but don't take any of it for granted. I know that's something that is just repeated and repeated and repeated. Like, the seniors my freshman year said that to me, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And it was, no, but, it goes fast. And then, I did an interview earlier today with Channel 7, and it was...
They're stealing my interview subject. I don't like that. Continue.
And they said something about, 3 or so weeks left in the season, and I looked at my other captain. I'm like, 3 weeks? I'm like, what do you mean 3 weeks? Yeah, no, but just don't take any of it for granted. All of it is just, you will have memories that you will remember for ever. It's just such a cool experience, and you meet some of your best friends, and just don't take any of that for granted.
Congrats on all the success.
Thank you.
Best of luck the next
you.
3-4 weeks, whatever, maybe about 5 weeks, I think, right? Not 3 weeks, 5 weeks still to go. And again, thank you for coming in.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Hannah Baumann joining us here on the Big High School Sports Show. We're going to take a break and come back with more here on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. BullFallsRadio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. Also, again, if you've missed any of our programs or any of our high school sports play-by-plays, go to our website, BullFallsRadio.com, click on sports. You'll see a logo for the Big High School Sports Show. You'll see a Wausau West logo. You'll see a Marathon logo. You'll see a Newman Catholic logo. We put our broadcasts of all the games, and like last night's Wausau West Wisconsin Rapids game. If you did not listen to me last night, you can tune in, relive all the action, again, on our podcast page, bullfallsradio.com, and then click on sports, and then wherever you want to hear it, whether it's the Big High School Sports Show or our play-by-play. With BJ Brandt, I'm Chad Holmes, and Coach, something that I've talked about with Paul Novinsky during the fall, with Jeff Gress during the winter, is the best part of the show is getting to talk, number one, to the coach, and then number two, and I don't mean number one being the better, but I'm talking about first we talk to a coach every week, then we talk to a student athlete, and to be able to have the time to be able to have 15, 18, 20 minutes to find out about Hannah Baumann, to talk to Troy Michalski about his team. It's the best part of the show. I can talk all I want, but when you get a chance to actually learn something about these people, and also you get a chance, obviously, as a teacher and a coach to see the young people. It's just wonderful to see these young people that accomplish so much.
Well, and it's not always easy to have a microphone in your face or a camera in your face and talk so adult, right. and grown up. I mean, for these student athletes to do that, it's great to get a window into what their lives are like a little bit, and their experience. You look at a senior like Hannah, who's had a great high school career and is having a great senior season. To get a little window into what her career looks like, and to hear about that is really fun and exciting.
Absolutely. Now we're going to put on our basketball hat. Are you ready to go here? You ready to break it down and tell us all that's going on? Let's start with the Wisconsin Valley Conference, because last night was a significant night in the championship race of the WVC. Wausau East, big win for Coach Dan Garrett and his Lumberjacks. They knocked off DC Everest in overtime, 77-69. Jesse Napgezik, 22. Isaac Rosbadowski, 17 for the Jacks. Marshfield was off in the conference. They defeated Chippewa Falls 80-68 last night. But that means now Marshfield is 6-0 in the conference. Everest is 5-2. Both teams 12-4 overall. And also significantly, because you have to wonder, and I know you were exact same position last night, where you have to win that game in order to have the opportunity against Stevens Point to turn around after the first meeting. Everest lost the first meeting to Marshfield. Now they play Marshfield on Friday, but even if they win, they're still a game behind. So that is a tough loss for the Evergreens.
That's a tough one. I mean, I think you don't know obviously what their thoughts are, but sometimes student athletes look over a game, and you look at the standings and you look at that and you think you have to think that maybe they were looking out the windshield a little bit too far, and East obviously played well and scored well. It was a super exciting game with lots of lead changes and probably just a great environment for a high school basketball game.
Wausau West also went on the road last night, beat Merrill 76-69. The Blue Jays had knocked off the Warriors at West in the first conference meeting. For Wausau West, they're starting to, I think, build a little bit. They had a good win against Rhinelander last Friday. Before that, they also finally got back on the winning track. I think they won 3 of their last 4 now. Again, it was a tough goal. They didn't win a game for about a month and a half. They lost 8 in a row, now winning 3 of their last 4. For Wausau West, again, when you lose the first time around at home, boy, that puts a little pressure on you. And they were able to go over to Merrill and beat a pretty solid Merrill Blue Jays squad.
Yeah, I mean, you look at they put up 76 points. I mean, I'm sure looking at the stats, they probably shot better. Their percentages were better, and probably at the free throw line, where I know they've got to take advantage of some of that spot. And talking to Coach Lemons, I mean, they've played really well in really long spurts, and then they've had a spurt that they just non-existent, and the game flips the other way. And it's nice to see them take a halftime lead in at the half and then close the game out, especially on road up at Merrill.
Stevens Point is doing pretty well right now as well. They're 4-2 in the conference. They're 8-8 overall, but they've been playing some pretty good basketball. They defeated East last Friday 87-55, and then knocked off Rhinelander in a non-conference 57-43. That was interesting. Last Friday, the games in the conference: Spash 87, East 55, Everest 80, Rapids 54, Marshfield 65, Merrill 46. Again, it shows high school athletics. East lost by 32 points on the road to Stevens Point, and then they come back and beat DC Everest. Evergreens knocked off Rapids by 26. I imagine as a coach, again, there are nights where it may click, and other nights it may be a lot harder.
Well, and I've noticed too with basketball, it's all shooting percentage, and you've got to take advantage of the opportunities you have. And the basketball, they get multiple timeouts, and as a coach, I've noticed they try to take momentum away from the other team or collect their group when they're in the bad spot, and I think the momentum swings that can happen in there, it's really interesting as a non-basketball person to watch and see how that translates to their game.
Some interesting matchups coming up in the WVC on the boys' side. Friday night, Spash is at Wausau. Spash at Wausau West. Merrill is at Wausau East. DC Everest and Marshfield again. Everest and Marshfield, the two teams throughout the season that considered the top two. Marshfield's been so consistent. I mean, they have really had an outstanding year. They played some tough non-conference games early. Got a couple bloody noses in it, lost some games, but since then, they have just been consistently outstanding at 6-0 overall, 12-4 in the conference. And for DC Everest, when you got a kid like Marcus Hall, you can go in there and beat anybody, but it's going to be a big test for the Evergreens. That's one of those classic matchups you like to see in the conference.
Well, it's going to be a great environment, I'm sure. At Marshfield, they got a big gym there, and you look at just the stats on it, and Marshfield's given up 50 points per game, and DC Everest's given up 59. And Marshfield right now, outside of they're second from the top of defensive stats in there, and I'm sure that's a huge part of what they are. They're probably tough to play against in the offensive end for their opponents, and clearly they're averaging almost 70 points a game on the offensive side. So I'm sure their percentages are good, and they're taking advantage on the offensive side as well.
And I think that both of us, following West, I think there's a significant week for West because they play two good opponents at home. You got Spash on Friday, and then Chippewa Falls, who's it's one of those sectional games again. You see some momentum, and as I said to Coach Lemons after the Rhinelander game, you feel like the seeds are starting to come. And for West, like you said, it's a lot about shooting percentage. They got a lot of guards, and when they're shooting well, you get 76 points. When you're not shooting well, then you're in the 40s. But I think these two games are going to kind of show where Wausau West is right now.
Well, I think so. I mean, back to back, right? I think that's a big thing for these guys to put two games back to back together, and keep the momentum they had from Tuesday night at Merrill. I think that's a big part of where they want to be, and they're a group that, as you watch them, they're skilled, they're talented, they work hard. They work really hard on the defensive end, and hopefully they can keep rewarding themselves in the offensive end for all that hard work they're doing on the defensive end.
And also for Wausau East, can they build on that win against Everest? They got Merrill at home on Friday. Then they have to go to Northern Pines, and Northern Pines is having a great season in boys basketball. It blows the mind when you think of Pines playing boys basketball at the level they are, while they're struggling a bit in hockey. But for Wausau East, that win against DC Everest, you don't want it to be a one and done. You want to build on that.
Well, absolutely. I think, it gives those guys some confidence going into it. I mean, obviously they executed in the moments that they needed to. And then to be, for Merrill, they've got to come back after a game that maybe they thought they were going to win at home against West and play against a red-hot East team coming off the win against Everest.
Looking at the Great Northern Conference, boys, it's been a lot of fun each week following this because there are three outstanding teams at the top. You got Medford, Northern Pines, and Mosinee. Right now, Medford is 6-0 in the conference, 12-3 overall. Pines 6-1 in the conference, 12-4 overall. Mosinee 5-2 in the league, 12-4 overall. And last Friday, Medford, they had knocked off Pines on the road. They had beaten Mosinee at home. They had established themselves as the top team in the conference. They faced Lakeland, who is now 1-5 in the conference, and Lakeland took them to the nub, 73-72. I mean, it was amazing to see Lakeland have an opportunity to knock off Medford, who's Logan Baumgartner, who's been just outstanding. Tanner Raby, who's outstanding. But again, it shows when you put all your eggs into some big games, and they call them big games. They're all big games, obviously. If you go up north to Minocqua, maybe get off the bus. It's been a long ride from Medford. Boy, you can't count on anything in high school, can you?
Well, I think, when you're at the top of your conference, you're getting everybody else's best. And I think you're not going to have your best every night, but you're certainly going to get everybody else's best, and you've got to handle that and respond. And obviously Medford did just enough to get through that game, but they got to know going forward that they're going to get everybody else's best.
Mm-hmm. Merwood boys as well. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to watch because it's so rare. I mean, you've probably seen it once or twice during the years in hockey, but you got Marathon, Newman, and Auburndale either 13-2 or 14-2 on the season, and they played each other. I mean, it's like Auburndale's 14-2. They're only 2 losses to Marathon. They're 9-2 in the conference. Marathon's 10-1 in the conference. They're only lost in overtime to Newman. Newman's 9-1 in the conference. They're only lost on the road to Auburndale. I mean, it's just been amazing. Last night, those 3 teams are all victorious. Marathon in a game that Tom Weaver called right here on Bull Falls Radio, knocked off Edgar on the road, 68-27. Grant Warren has been just massive for Marathon this season. Another double-double, 13 points, 17 rebounds. Daniel Lacroix and Drew Wolfel had 12 each for Marathon. Newman, they had to battle a slower tempo against Assumption last night, but defeated the Royals 56-44. Isaac Seidel, 19. Eli Gustafson, 10 for the Cards. And Auburndale trailed by 6 against Stratford at halftime, but outscored the Tigers by 19 in the second half to beat Stratford 60-47. Alex Wilfart, 23 points. Again, I mean, I, as somebody who covers and also as a fan, love it when I see these really, really, really high-level teams, especially when you have multiple teams in the same conference who are going to battle each other in big games coming down the stretch. Well,
they're going to battle each other, but that's going to prepare them for the playoffs. I mean, when you have to play really well in your conference every night, you got to know that that's going to test you throughout the season. So maybe if you've got a bigger conference, you don't have to go outside your conference as much to get those games. You've got them right in your conference, and that's definitely going to prepare all those teams. It's kind of fun when you're at this point in the season and you don't know who the conference champion is going to be because they've got some really big games coming up.
And next Tuesday, the next conference games in the Merriwood South, Auburndale at Newman next Tuesday night. I will have it for you right here on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. Again, Newman's the only conference lost to Auburndale. Auburndale still right there behind Marathon and Newman Catholic. So Auburndale at Newman next Tuesday. Stratford at Marathon. And Stratford is always a team you cannot overlook. Their winning tradition. So many of these football players playing basketball last night. Again, they led Auburndale by 6 at halftime. Auburndale, with their talent, came back. But Marathon definitely will have to be ready for the Stratford Tigers. And also next Tuesday, Assumption is at Edgar. Wisconsin Valley Conference girls, again, very interesting at the top. Surprised right now. Stevens Point, I don't think anybody thought it was going to be Spash at the top of the conference. Wausau West have been undefeated in the conference the last 2 years, but Stevens Point beat West and Marshfield both on the road this season. They're 7-0 in the conference, 12-5 overall. Marshfield has been very good in both overall and in conference. They're 7-1 in conference, 15-4 overall. Wausau West on a bit of a winning streak now, 11-6 overall, 5-2 in the conference. Merrill having a solid season as well, 11-8 overall, 3-5 in the conference. Last night, Wausau West defeated Merrill 51-38. Lexi White, another double-double, 15 points, 10 rebounds. Ayla Christensen, 13. Molly Anderson, 10 for the Warriors. West, the night before, went up to Lakeland, a game that we had here on WXCO, knocked off the T-Birds 78-71. Were able to win, even though Kenzie Deaton injured her ankle again late. It was a tie game. Lexi White put the team on her shoulders. I mean, again, we had her on a couple of weeks ago. Watching her, she has that ability. You know, you need that one player when the times are tough, you know you can count on, and Lexi White's that player. And West has a lot of other talent, but boy, that senior leadership with Lexi is so impressive.
Well, I mean, for somebody who just had their 1,000th point in their career, certainly she's got a lot of game experience. I was able to watch their Eau Claire Memorial game, and I think, looking at how they played there, down a little bit, maybe didn't play as well they wanted in the second half, and those seniors came out in that second half and took the game over for them. I think, Lexi's certainly somebody down the road here that Coach Weinkauf's going to rely on. Her teammates are going to rely on. They've got multiple, Division II athletes here at the basketball level. They're poised to make a really good run here.
DC Everest got a win. I like to mention this because Everest 2-16 now. They had a struggle, and I feel for the kids who battle so hard that still be part of the team when there's struggles, because it's not easy to go back to school and go through the hallways and be struggling. It's easy when you're at the top of the conference and winning a lot. But Everest last night, 61-52 over East. Braylon Byler, 20 points. Kirsten Hall, 15. Katie Schultz, 14 for the Evergreens. And Marshfield last night defeated Rapids 58-40. Friday night, I'll be in Stevens Point the next 2 nights. I'll be with BJ Brandt and the Warrior hockey team tomorrow. But Friday, another massive game. Wausau West at Stevens Point. For the Warriors, Again, they lost by 3 in the first meeting between these teams. And for Wausau West, if they want to get a third consecutive conference championship, they know what they have to do. They're going to have to win at Stevens Point. They're going to have to win at Marshfield. And going to Stevens Point, undefeated Panthers. I mean, again, massive game on Friday.
Yeah, especially going on the road. I think that's the biggest challenge. It's sometimes a little bit easier to win at home, but going on the road, especially to a place like Spash, they're obviously playing really well. West is going to have to take care of business there. I mean, the road, sometimes it's a little more difficult when you have to hang on, okay? Mm-hmm. West is going to have to go earn this win. And for a team that's won a conference championship in the past, multiple conference championships with some of the players that are on that roster, they know what it takes going down the stretch here to hopefully put themselves in a position to earn another conference championship. Again,
West at Spash on Friday, 7 o'clock right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. And Merrittwood South, Assumption continues to lead the way. They're 9-0 in the conference, 14-1 overall. Edgar 7-3 in the conference, 12-4 overall. Auburndale 6-3 in league, 10-5 overall. Marathon 8-9 overall, 5-6 in conference. Stratford 8-8, 3-6 in league. Newman 8-9 and 2-8 in conference. Looking to tomorrow night, Assumption is at Edgar. Basically, Assumption with a win. It's going to be tough to catch them with a 3-game lead in the loss column, but they can really put it away with a win in Edgar tomorrow evening. And again, Assumption made it to the state championship game a year ago. They got some good young talent. How much does experience help when you make a deep run, when you have a number of kids back the next year?
I think it's massive. I think that is a huge part. So talent obviously is there when you make that run. But I think the difference when you're in tough moments or you're in tough games, experience matters. I think about back when we won the championship in 2011. We lost in the finals the year before. And you talk to Pete, he said maybe we don't win in 2011 unless we lose in 2010. Because we needed that experience. We needed to understand what it took to win a state championship. And those were, obviously really good teams. And then next year you lose in overtime to Notre Dame. But those experiences, when you get those kids, and I think about like our group, we don't have that experience right now. Mm-hmm. So you're relying on talent. You're relying on guys that can deal with adversity well, and you try to set them up for that. And I think as coaches, going down the stretch, you're going to rely on your seniors. You're going to rely on your leadership. You're going to rely on your skilled players. You're going to rely on the guys that maybe don't play as much but provide a ton of energy on the bench to support the guys that are playing. And I think, or girls that are playing. I just think, experience is a huge part of that run, but maturity and senior leadership ultimately is going to determine where your team goes.
Have to take a quick break. We're going to come back and look ahead at some of the big matchups, including West and Spash and hockey coming up next. We'll look ahead in hockey, and BJ has any thoughts on anything else he wants to talk about before we wrap things up. So we got one more segment. It is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. BullFallsRadio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. With BJ Brandt, I'm Chad Holmes. And let's look ahead hockey-wise over the next week in terms of some big games. And you got a couple of big games. Stevens Point has a couple of big games. You face each other tomorrow night, of course, with the conference on the line for yourself. You have to win this game, or else Stevens Point is not losing twice the rest of the way. I would say it's pretty fair to say in the conference.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a similar situation that we were in a year ago where we got them the first round at our place, and then we lost to Rapids, which kind of took us out of the conference there. But yeah, it's a big matchup. I'm excited for this one. We fell behind 4-0 against them the first time, and we're able to battle back and kind of showed us a little bit of who we could be. And I'm excited. Hopefully the guys, don't give them a 4-goal cushion this time before we decide to play.
Again, not sharing state secrets here, but when you look at Stevens Point, obviously they got some immense firepower. It does come down in a lot of ways to trying to make sure that you don't allow them to get that foot on the accelerator. You've talked about it all season long. Your defenders have to make the smart plays, the easy plays in a sense, not try to do too much and make them earn it. Don't give them a great opportunities.
Well, I think, we've got to be able to break the puck out, and it starts with our defensemen retrieving pucks and our forwards coming back to support them to get the puck and play offense. I think the other side of this is you get to this time of year, I mean, they're killing it almost 88%, so you've got to execute on the power play, and that's what we did the last time we played them. We were able to, I think we had 2 power play goals of those 4. Their power play is clicking along at 30+%, and based on how we played last night, we've got to make sure we're more disciplined so that we're not giving them that power play opportunities because they're skilled. You look at their lineup, they've got a couple guys over 43 points, Schmigai and Schroeder, both skilled hockey players. Mason Keller, senior defenseman for them, has 31 points, and Grant Molsky, a freshman who's a big, strong forward, plays the game well the right way, and those 4 guys, certainly guys we got to keep an eye on. And then you look at goaltending. I mean, Hunter Christian's been a senior goaltender for him, and he's somebody that we want to make sure we get some shots on him early and take away his eyes. That's it's really, you've heard me say it probably 100 times in our interviews, to take away the goalie's eyes, but that's a commitment. That's somebody standing in front of the net to know that you're probably going to get hit with the puck, and you're probably going to take some beatings down there just because it's a tough area to play in. And we were able to do that when we started to mount our comeback. We got some time. We got some space for ourselves. We took away his eyes. We were able to get back in it. So, I mean, those are some keys. We got to make sure it's a fun place to play at the Willet. They'll probably have a big student section, so that's always a fun environment for high school students.
And then Saturday's interesting because you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the seedings and the brackets and the sectionals about how the Big Rivers Conference looks at the Wisconsin Valley Conference, how the Wisconsin Valley Conference looks at the Big Rivers Conference. And we got 2 matchups where the top 2 teams in the WVC face off against 2 of the best in the Big Rivers. You go to Hudson and Stevens Point hosting Chippewa Falls. That's significant, isn't it? I mean, there's layers to that. And as a conference, you want to be able to say to them that, hey, we can play with you, because I imagine right now that with the number of teams that are near the top of that conference, they kind of feel probably a little bit of a strut that they're perhaps the best conference in the state.
Yeah, I mean, I think over the next couple of weeks, the seeding will shake out. I think, Hudson, you look at their week, they're Eau Claire Memorial last night. They've got Chippewa tonight, or on Thursday night, and then I think they got us for sure on Saturday. I know that. And that's a big week, and it's going to test the depth of teams. It's going to test, how do you deal with adversity throughout the game, whether you get the lead first or you don't get the lead. But, yeah, I think from a conference perspective, it's big because, if we go through and take care of business and Point takes care of business on that Saturday, it kind of sends a message about what our conference is versus your conference on that day.
Right.
And then you look at what we have going forward. We got Eau Claire North. We've got to go over there and play from their conference yet. It's exciting. Like this last, you talk about February all the time, but a lot of times it's late January because you've either had cancellations and you're stacking up a bunch of games together. And you look at, we played, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday. That's the regular season that's left. You sprint a little bit here, so you hope you've built in some sprinting in there where you know that what you need to get done in practice and to get guys ready for the game. But super important here these last 3 weeks.
And actually, something I want to mention as well is it's interesting because, again, it could affect maybe seedings, but also your conferences. DC Everest plays Marshfield twice, Thursday and Tuesday. That's interesting.
Well, it's different. Certainly, you see it in baseball all the time.
Yeah.
That's what
every week.
You see that in the spring because you don't know what the weather's going to bring.
Right.
You don't see it that often here in the Valley, but I think that's a makeup game. One of them's a makeup game from a virtual learning day from earlier. But yeah, I mean, they haven't played each other yet, and they're both in the section. And I just went through it today, and I looked at them like, oh, they haven't played each other. There's nothing here. And you look at the, how they're playing, and especially, I think goaltending will play a big factor in that. But Marshfield's got some firepower up front. It'll be interesting because they play on a big sheet and then they play on a smaller sheet. So it'll be interesting to see how those games turn out.
No, they play the small sheet first. And then
small sheet first, okay.
But also interesting, I think, for Everest because they have a chance, if they win these 2 games, to really finish third. I know every space matters, doesn't it, in a conference race?
Well, it does, and I think that's where, the win over Rapids for them could carry some significant weight into the seating meeting, because the coaches that look at conference standings, or some coaches that maybe don't look at a certain team enough, they might just glance at it and say, oh, they beat them head to head.
Right.
And I think that right there could carry some weight going into that seating meeting. And I think, boy, there's so much, Chad, over these next 3 weeks that's going to either A, make it more clear, or B, it's going to make it muddy.
You're going to have some appeals.
You'll have some appeals. And quite honestly, you got to go down as a coach and do your homework and make sure that you're ready to prepare for everything. And that's what I love as a coach, going into these seating meetings, because it's fun to make your case. And with the computer, you don't get to do that anymore. You know, was last year the first year? Or is it the second year?
I think last year was the first year.
I think it was, because everybody talked about, well, so-and-so beat so-and-so. Why are they seated beneath them? Yeah. Why are they seated underneath them? And that's where, as coaches, we get that right. And I would say more often than not, we get it right. And as a coach, I enjoy this seating process. I enjoy spending the time doing the homework, following up on teams, watching film, this little run you get here. And I think other guys enjoy it too. I just talked to Pat McDonald and we play them. Hey Pat, what do you think about this? How do you and you get to talk with coaches about that, because it's just fun. I mean, everybody, you want to, as a coach, you want to beat the other team. You want your players to play well and the result to be how you want it. But we're still just normal humans at the end of the day, and it's fun to chat with these coaches about whether it's seating or what they do in their spare time.
Got a few minutes left, and I got a topic or two, but is there anything on your mind? I always ask Jeff Gress in this last segment. He's got a big list all the time of interesting topics that, and he'll bring it up. Is there something that's a little bit of an interesting thought that you want to kind of bring up and discuss? Or do you want to let me just throw it out there?
No, I mean, if high school sports related, obviously, I think our first run at this state tournament will determine the future of venues for high school state tournaments. Being president of the Coaches Association has its perks and its challenges, but one of them is being able to provide the best environment for high school student athletes to compete for a championship. Mm-hmm. And that includes things like ensuring the all-state voting happens, ensuring the all-conference stuff gets logged in, and we make sure we get those things right. The state tournament banquet, including media like yourself and the Wisconsin Prep Hockey guys, to make sure, and all of the awesome awards that people want to give to our student athletes because of how they either performed well on the ice, or B, you've got the Jeff Sauer Award, who awards kids in their community service and what they do outside the arena. I think it's a really big event we've got coming. In one of the joys, and I say that maybe sarcastically, is I get to play on the state tournament banquet. And, I rope in Travis and Jed and a couple other guys that can help with it. But to be down there to celebrate, whether I'm there as a coach with my team, or you're there to host the event and honor others. And one of the great things that you get to do at that event is you honor somebody who's given most of their lives to high school hockey. Last year we honored John Maurerman, and John won a state championship in 1999. He beat Spash in overtime. They were down 5-1 and came back and beat Spash in overtime. And for the Warrior team that lost to Spash, we were rooting for Beloit. And to get to hear John talk about what the career was like for him, and it's been really, really enjoyable. But this tournament, I think, is really important for us and what we can provide for the kids and the student athletes, and WIA's willingness to allow us to try to create something, to create an environment that is like the sectional final and hopefully better. And I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, I want to be down there and make sure that our team's down there, but be someone that has a little bit of foot in the planning to make sure it's a great event for high school student athletes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I think I hope to be broadcasting, but I hope to get down there either way, because I want to see how it works as well. I mean, just to see the setup, to see how the new venue, the atmosphere. Does it have that noise that we love at a sectional final, where it's bouncing off the ceiling and just feeling it through your bones? It's going to be exciting, and I think the one thing again for people, go in with an open mind. Go in there and just see what, because obviously there's going to be things that work wonderfully, and there's going to be things that you have to fix because it's first year at anything. Go in there, enjoy it, wrap your arms around it, and then try to make it better next year as well.
Yeah, I think, we were at Alliant for so long, and I think everybody's used to that. And sometimes change is hard, whether it's in your personal life or even bigger. But I'm with you. I know there's going to be hiccups, and I think the WI knows there's going to be hiccups. What they are, I think we know what a couple things there might be, but there's probably things we don't know yet. And I hope that it's just a great experience for those guys and girls that get to play down there and fight for a state championship. And the biggest difference, it's not going to be back-to-back games like with your ticket. It's single game, single ticket. So I hope that people understand that, because you don't get all the games, and maybe they offer a season ticket, meaning you get all the games. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do there, right. But yeah, I just think for our sport and to provide an environment for those kids and coaches and families and fans and tight knit. I mean, at that arena, you're going to be closer to the action than you probably have been ever at a state tournament, because the seating at the Alliant was away from the rink, and the seating here is going to be right on the glass, and what energy that's going to bring to the rink is just going to be fun to watch.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. February and March are the two favorite months. It's so much fun, and appreciate you coming in, sitting in tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chad. This was awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks to Troy Michalski, our coach guest, and also thanks to Hannah Baumann as well from the Central Wisconsin Storm, our student athlete guest. Jeff Gress will be back with me next week. We will be back from 6 till 8 p.m. for another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO.